Ladies and gentlemen, this knife I was not expecting to be as good as it is. Let me tell you why. What I have before you is the Demko AD22 carbon fiber Wharncliffe blade version. And I was not expecting to like it. And I own an 80/20, so don't think that I'm at all anti-Demko in any way. I was just not expecting to like this knife simply because I have tried so many of these smaller iterations. And every single time I've tried something smaller than, let's say, the compact 80/20, MG USA made, I've really been disappointed. And I think it comes down to a few major features that they were able to implement in this 80/22 that has changed my mind completely. So in the past, I started off really with the 80/20, and it kind of set my expectation, I guess, to kind of an unrealistic setting. So what I mean by that is when you've held an 80/20, there is a heft to the blade. There is a specific feel to that particular shark lock that feels a little bit different. And what I mean by that is I think it might be the weight of the blade itself that allows the shark lock to feel very fluid and easy to manipulate, whether going out, coming back in, deployment. Basically, the smaller iterations for me, now I know there's a lot of people that love the 80/20.5, they love the Nano Shark, they love the Shark Cub. Content creators galore, they love these smaller iterations. For whatever reason, I don't. And it's not a testament to the way that they're made, because Demko doesn't make a, shittily made knife. They have a QC, reputation for making wonderful knives. So it's not like it's not a manufacturing issue. It's just that when the shark lock, for me, when it becomes super small, it almost becomes pointy, and it's an uncomfortable shark lock to deploy. And when I am utilizing my regular 80/20, it just feels very fluid. And I think it has to do with the real estate that they give you on that shark lock, along with, again, the heft of the blade really allows the knife to feel almost lubricated, almost fluid. I mean, you put hardly any effort into this shark lock to get it to deploy, and it feels really, really good. And that's exactly what I'm getting from the 80/22. Now, when you're thinking about size comparisons, it is significantly smaller than the 80/20. In hand, you can definitely feel the weight. The blade shape's completely different, but it doesn't necessarily feel different in the way of action. And for me, action's kind of always the driving factor when I'm evaluating a knife as something that I'm going to keep continuously using and keeping in my rotation as far as my EDC and my carry knife. And being able to manipulate this shark lock, super fluid, not getting any of that pinching or hang-ups or anything like that from this knife, it really is, it's a pleasure to open, it's a pleasure to use. And when something's a pleasure to open and to use, the rest of the ergonomics and other aspects that I'll tell you about on this knife really start to shine, because you're past that first obstacle. And when you get past, for me, when you get past the first obstacle of does it have good action, everything else then emphasizes or enhances the knife itself. So we've talked about action. Ergonomics is something that is also very important in a knife. And the way a handle fills the hand, whether your hand is a medium, large, extra large, male or female, is very, very important. And I can tell you right now that the ergonomics on this knife are phenomenal. And I absolutely need to have a knife, even if it's not a long blade. This is about a 3-inch cutting edge on this 80/22. Even in a smaller knife, I need to be able to really choke up to get power behind the blade and be able to, really blaze through on my push cuts, to be able to put a lot of backwards tension on my pull cuts. It is very important for me to be able to do that, to use this as a tool. I mean, knives are tools, and yes, we all collect them, and some of them do turn into save queens. All Demkos, to be honest with you, are the opposite of save queens. These are knives that are engineered to be used. Andrew Demko himself would be appalled at knowing that any of his particular blades were ever thrown into a safe as a looker and not to be, really beat to shit and used constantly. I think he'd feel a lot better about somebody beating up the knife than, it's sitting in a safe. This is just not a knife that's meant to not be used. And when you have the ergonomics to back up the blade geometry, the materials, the heat treat, and then just the wonderful craftsmanship and manufacturing behind it, you end up having a wonderful tool that can tackle any task. And that is exactly where I am with this particular knife right now. So a quick harken back to the action of this knife. Something else that's very important for people that are on a job site or trying to get stuff done is the ability to operate this knife with gloves on. A slow roll, an easy to do slow roll with gloves on. You'll ask anybody. My dad was a iron worker his entire life, and he'll be the first to tell you, if I can't deploy my knife quickly and with gloves on, it ain't worth a shit. And I think that's something that we really need to talk about here. This blade hole is ergonomically phenomenal when it comes to opening it with gloves on. Now, the gloves that I have here in my test, these aren't even heavy duty gloves. I mean, these are things you kind of just throw on if you're going to go work in the garage or something. But I mean, even with a super thick, heavy duty leather glove that you'd need maybe if you're welding or, something like that, you could still manipulate this knife pretty easily, both with the shark lock and the slow roll with your thumb. Okay, so if there were a few negatives about this AD22, it would be a few things. One, if you are looking to sharpen this knife, you've got some life there from the plunge grind. They give you a little bit, but I'd love to see that choil a little further out, maybe just, I don't know, maybe 40% larger, because, you're going to run into the bottom of that plunge grind right about there. And so you've definitely got some sharpening life in it. It's not like it's the worst, sharpening tool I've ever seen, but that would be one of the negatives. Also, something that kind of threw me off a little bit is typically when you're dealing with Demko construction, rigidity is typically overbuilt into their knives. And I don't know if you can see this, but these two pieces, let's put it this way. These two pieces of carbon fiber are extremely thick, but I do think they would have been a little better served maybe to have a steel liner on the inside of these two slabs, something to kind of reinforce it a little bit. We've got the standoffs, we've got the shark lock that's kind of like a high backspacer. I mean, it does serve for some rigidity in there because it comes through right up to the tang of the blade. But again, this knife does not feel like it's not sturdy. So don't get me wrong, guys. If we're taking a look here, these carbon fiber slabs are damn near 1/4 of an inch almost. They're just under 1/4 of an inch. Maybe, they're over 1/8 of an inch, just under 1/4 of an inch. I mean, these are thick slabs of carbon fiber. So they definitely gave you a nice sturdy piece of that material. But again, if you're nitpicking, which is completely what I'm doing, I would have liked to have seen these slabs with some type of interior strengthening, maybe with just like a really thin steel liner of some sort. Okay, so overall, we're going to be looking at about 7.5 inches in total length with a 3-inch blade. And I would say, damn near 3 inches of cutting edge too, because the edge begins really right where the blade does, because the sharpening tool is really not that large. So I would say it's a 3-inch blade, maybe 3 1/8 inch blade based off of my high-tech ruler here. But definitely, you're definitely getting about 3 inches of cutting edge. All right, as far as weight is concerned, we're looking at about 3.5 ounces, which is phenomenal weight for the sturdiness that you're getting with this particular knife. So anything, like I've said before, anything below 4 ounces to me is a very comfortable carry. And I will tell you, 3.5 ounces for a knife that is this sturdy and this robust, that's really, really good weight. And you know, the things I complained about prior, if they did put steel liners in it, I guarantee that would push it up over the 4 ounce mark. So maybe they were going more for, you know, kind of that lighter, sturdy workhorse type of knife based on the weight. Okay, so my final thoughts on the Demko AD22 are that this is an absolute home run of a knife. I think that they solved a lot of the issues that I had personally. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, you're crazy, man. I think the Nano Shark or the Shark Cub or, you know, the Slim or the 20.5 are great. They weren't great for me. And so when I was hesitant to purchase this, I did buy this with my own money. This is actually going to be my wife's knife. I bought for her because she's a carbon fiber gal, and we've been trying to find the right size Demko for her because my 80-20 is too big. And, you know, we tried that's what the experience that I've had with a lot of the Demko knives is us going to the smaller iterations, trying to find one that's easy for her to manipulate. And I can tell you that this is it. And I was very reluctant to give her this knife. I really wanted to make this my second Demko in my collection, but you know, she's awesome and she loves knives and she uses her knives. And with that being said, Mrs. Southern Cali is going to be getting the AD22, and I might just have to get one for myself because, you know, again, my overall rating on a knife like this out of 10 is going to be about a 9.3. And I do not plan on giving out tons of 9 reviews constantly. I've only done a few reviews so far, and I know one was the PM2, and of course that's like one of my favorite knives of all time, so it got a really good score. But no, this knife 100% is about a 9.3, and I love it. I strongly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. For those of you, if you ever thought that like the Shark Lock kind of pinched your finger or was a little bit hard to manipulate on the smaller, less expensive iterations, you might want to try out an AD22 if you can get one. I was very fortunate to get one. I will tell you the one thing that is a little frustrating is getting your hands on new Demkos because they will do releases and they are gone in like 3 seconds. I literally had to camp out on the purchase button to get this thing. So where it's a great thing because demand is high, it's kind of a crappy feeling when you've been waiting there for a drop and you can't even get the damn thing out of your cart. So just know that, you know, like every Demko knife, eventually it will become available. But if you are like me and you love the 80-20, but maybe all the other iterations that you've been experiencing just haven't really lived up to that feeling you got from your 80-20, the AD22 should be next on your list.